Ruth Dice.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, there's nothing more frustrating than watching New Zealand families go backwards in terms of their ability to pay for things that are essential in their life. And that's what we're seeing in New Zealand now, day in, day out. Good, hard-working New Zealand families going backwards, and the government standing on the sideline as if they were a spectator in a sport, saying it's nothing to do with us. I've watched day in, day out in this House ministers wringing their hands, absolving themselves of all responsibility. I don't know why they collect their salary. If they are spectators in the sport of people's lives, why do they take up ministerial portfolios and accept the salary that goes with it? Their job should be to support New Zealand families, support New Zealand businesses, and present a plan that we can rely on to move New Zealand forward. But instead, we've got no plan, we've got New Zealand families going backwards, and a government that is completely out of touch with what's happening. Mr Speaker, that was very sadly related in a story on the weekend in the Sunday Star Times. There's often stories that make me feel unwell in the Sunday Star Times, I must admit, but this particular story was about families who have so many people living in the house and are so short of money that they put padlocks on their fridge so that they can ration the food out amongst the people living in that house. Who has heard, other than perhaps in some members' houses where they do it for reasons other than poverty, who in New Zealand has heard of a family who are forced to ration their limited food by putting padlocks on a fridge? And those were not beneficiary families, Mr Speaker. They are families of low-wage earners. They are people who go to their job every day and do their best and work hard, and they don't have enough money at the end of the week to adequately afford to feed their family. That is a disgrace, and that's why the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister should be stepping up to the mark instead of coming into this House giving us smart aleck and nasty answers to good, serious questions that we're entitled to ask on behalf of New Zealand families. So we're now seeing more and more families, particularly in Auckland, living in overcrowded situations. We know what that means. We know that that will mean more third world diseases of poverty becoming evident in our community, and tragically we are seeing those outcomes already. The Hamilton Budget Advisory Service, Claire Matara, was quoted in that article in the Sunday Star Times saying that things that people have to have, not extras, not nice to have, things that people have to have, like power, like food and like petrol, they no longer have enough money to provide those essentials for their service. We know that more and more of our New Zealand children are going without breakfast. The Herald reported recently that 4,000 children every day are going to school without even having any breakfast, and that maybe 85 to 87,000 children every day go to school without their lunch. Mr Speaker, it's not acceptable in our country to have families living in overcrowded situations that add huge risk to their health, as well as additional stress and tension. That's where family violence becomes more and more obvious. That's when people's stress levels get increased, and that's where their health is at risk. We've got more and more families living in those situations, and it's certainly not acceptable to have families who have so little money to share out to buy the essentials that they're forced to padlock their fridge in order to ration it. Mr Speaker, one of the items that is really expensive for people to buy, and there's been a lot of discussion about it in this House, generated by Labour members, is milk. People in New Zealand can't understand why we produce so much milk and it costs us so much to buy. And I want to congratulate Labour leader Phil Goff and my colleague from Christchurch, Leanne Dalzell, for their sterling work in getting an inquiry into this essential item.
The question is the motion be agreed to. The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, well, I must acknowledge actually that member. I didn't used to think she was that good a health spokesman